Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is stepping in. He signed the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas bill over 1 year after the Parkland killings. Florida's new measure will arm teachers, requiring them to undergo psychological evaluations, background checks, drug screenings, and at least 144 hours of police-style training. Does that seem reasonable? Well, not to everyone.
Because we're talking about black boys and girls who are getting murdered by police officers. There's bad police officers and there are bad teachers.
Teachers who don't want to carry guns won't have to. Why do you still oppose it if it's optional?
I certainly would not feel comfortable with some of my colleagues to take on that job without extensive training.
Joining me now is Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General, and Mark Glaze, Everytown for Gun Safety's former executive director. Mark, these requirements seem pretty reasonable. Not if you don't want to carry a gun, if you don't want, you don't have to. You're not made to. But a lot of training would be required for teachers. What's the problem?
So I think the question is, does this make us and our kids more safe or less safe? And I think there's plenty of evidence to show that when you put guns in schools, almost no matter who has them, it just makes the environment less safe. Like if you just look back at the first few months of this year, I think 5 or 6 guns were discharged in schools that belong to people who are trained to use them, like school resource officers and off-duty
So
police
your point
officers.
is that no gun should ever be in a school, even if you have assailants coming in with guns.
I think it's acceptable for some schools that have chosen to do it to have like off-duty police officers who are trained in their use, but to bring more and more guns in and to expect my kid's teacher to have a shootout over his head and to be well trained to make that work well just isn't realistic.
Pam, the problem is you have these kids who are in there. I mean, I was bawling today, listening to the parents of another hero in Colorado. But I think that's part of what DeSantis is responding to. Like, we obviously had Scott Peterson, the security officer who didn't go in Parkland. We understand tonight he's still getting an $8,000 a month pension. That's our reporting tonight. But what about this? A lot of people are uncomfortable. Mark cites problems with guns in schools.
Well, I've always supported this. Always supported this since Parkland. I was there at Parkland the night it happened. I was there with the families. I still talk to the families. And I've supported this because Florida is such a huge state, Laura, and we have so many rural counties, and police can't get there right away. They can't in so many of our counties. For instance, the county where I'm from, Hillsborough County, they've already opted out. They don't want their teachers to carry guns. But the counties that choose to do it, an extensive amount of training, extensive. And I think they should be treated like air marshals. You don't know who they are. The school resource officer and the staff will know who they are. And they're there if they're needed. It could have saved these kids' lives at the schools. The sad part is you're never going to take guns out of the hands of bad people. And we have to protect our kids.
Well, I want to get specific to the shooting in Colorado that happened this week. Of course, last night, students at the school collected in the auditorium for what they thought was going to just be a moment of coming together and support. Instead, they ended up being lectured by local Democrats.
You already have my thoughts and prayers, but you deserve and should demand more. Because to only send thoughts and prayers when you're a member of Congress, or when you're in a position to take action and to effect change, it is empty, it is hollow, and you and your children deserve more.
Our kids already have enough to do. Their job is not to fix America's broken gun laws.
Well, as soon as that began, students started pouring out of the space in droves, and they collected outside where you can hear them doing this chant.
Mental health! Mental health! Mental health! Mental health!
Yeah, Mark, they were reacting to the political agenda, and they were basically saying mental health. That a lot of this goes into the lack of attention to the mental health problems of a lot of these individuals.
Well, a couple things. First is that I might surprise you by agreeing. I think going to a rally like the day after some of your fellow students got shot and talking about politics is a mistake. So that's on us, quite frankly, though I had nothing to do with it. But, you know, people in other Western countries are not less mentally ill than we are. They watch the same movies, they play the same video games, but this kind of thing only happens in the United States. And it's because while mental health is something we need to do better on, it's also just the case that we have too many guns. They're available to too many people.
All right, guys, last thought. Homelessness is wreaking havoc in cities across the country, especially ones controlled by certain Democratic mayors. Well, up next, we're going to take you to La La Land to explain the idiotic solutions being put forth by Eric Garcetti regarding homelessness. Stay there. Joe Biden is joining Mayor Eric Garcetti in L.A. He did this yesterday when the two were asking voters what issues mattered most to them.
I'm really worried about all the people that are living on the streets. That's one thing that we've noticed in Bakersfield, that it's getting great. Getting out of hand.
Just like those photos I showed you in Houston from Tuesday night. So what is Mayor Garcetti doing to stop the homelessness problem that is out of control in California? He's praising the painting of murals around the city to bring, quote, awareness to the issue. But will he ever actually do anything about the problem at hand? Joining me now is Leo Terrell, civil rights attorney, and Shirley Husar, CEO of Urban Game Changers. Leo, how does the mural help the homeless?
Laura, the murals is nothing more than a public relations campaign. The city has a $500 million budget. I'll tell you what they're doing. Housing, transitional housing. They're doing mental health for those individuals on the street. We have people who have taxed themselves in the city of L.A. to help the homeless. The murals are nothing more to remind the people of the seriousness of the homeless population. L.A. is doing something.
Shirley, you work and spend an enormous amount of time. It's the first time I met you, Shirley. You were telling me you were going to bring me down to the homeless encampments in L.A., and your work there never ends. So what about what Garcetti has planned and what the La La Land is doing about the homelessness problem?
Well, I love how you call it La La Land. And Laura, thank you so much for having me on your show. I love being on the Laura Ingraham Show. Look, we're in a time in American history where we see California at its worst. Health and sanitation is the issue right now, and this man is a joke. He knows how he took that extra bite of sandwich because he didn't want to address the issue, saying that you're going to talk about homelessness. We have mental illness right now. We have typhus. We have hepatitis A. We have so much going on with black plagues and rats eating up these homeless people, infecting our law officers. People step over American people as they're subhuman in this state. It is not getting better. We don't see America being made greater here again. What we see is a template of what the Democrats want to continue to further in a supermajority state that's destructive and divisive against American people.
Well, Mayor Garcetti also, I think he's rolling out the Green New Deal for the city. Also, he did that late last month, and he's very urgent about it. And he says he believes making the city carbon neutral will help homelessness by creating new jobs. And he called it the fight of our lives. And the plan includes getting rid of things like straws, styrofoam, and recycling wastewater. So, Leo, I mean, is that going to do a lot?
Oh, come on. And by the way, I love to be on the Laura Ingraham Show, too. But Shirley, with all due respect, didn't address anything about what I said about the money being poured in. Regarding the Green New Deal, Laura, cities like L.A. and the state of Washington, we're the laboratories of making these things happen as far as the Green New Deal and electric vehicles, having a clean environment, reusable water.
Leo,
but Laura, I just mentioned,
so when you say $500 million is going to be spent, that tells me nothing.
Yes.
We spent like $10 trillion, right, in the war on poverty since the late 60s, with trillions and trillions of dollars. We still have American citizens sleeping on the streets in every major metropolitan area. About 2 blocks from here, tonight, when we leave, we're going to see man after man, woman after woman on the streets as we let hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants pour into the United States. Shirley, I got to tell you, it's not a political issue for me. This is an American issue. Shirley.
This is an American issue because what we see is policies not being put forth front for the American people. Leo, what are you talking about? Here we have homeless people on the streets of Los Angeles. We are subhuman looked upon people, especially African American people. Let me ask you a question. What kind of Negro are you that you have no compassion for your people?
Now,
the
that's
money
a personal attack.
There's no money being poured into.
See what she did? She went personal, Laura.
Hey, Laura,
she went personal.
We're seeing money poured into politicians' pockets.
She went personal.
Good people are being forgotten in this state, and that's unfortunate.
Okay. Guys,
she went personal.
We don't do personal attacks. Okay, we have conversations. But this is African